Awesome! So you guys know the insane importance of remembering people's names, which is so critical, and it can literally change everything. And like when I started out, like I was really bad at remembering names, like kind of a lot of people are, and it's difficult, you're meeting new people and you're like, how am I supposed to remember these names? And Dale points out here that most people don't really remember names for the simple reason that they don't take the time, the energy necessary to concentrate and repeat and fix names indelibly in their minds. They make excuses for themselves, or they're too busy. It's just crazy. And so like, as I started to read this and I started to understand it, we're gonna look at a really powerful application of it in just a moment. Like I would start to try to remember people's names, and what sucked is like, at the beginning I wasn't really good at it. So if you wanna get better at something, you can follow, name formulas, or you can follow tricks, you can get like a big book and write everyone's name in it. But the easiest way to do it, right, is to just start trying to remember people's names. And so that's kind of exactly what I did, is I would just ask people what their name was over and over again. If I forgot their name, I'd look them dead in the eyes and I would say, I forgot your name, what's your name? And like, over time, if you keep asking people what their name is over and over again, you get their full name, you learn more about them and you keep seeing them over and over again, especially if you're like working in a similar environment or going to the same place over and over again, right? You start to remember their names, which is so powerful, right? Because most people don't remember names. And so all you have to do, and for some people it's easier, for some people it's tougher. For me, it was a lot tougher. I know for some people it's ridiculously easy. But it's just so crucial, so key. And if you forget someone's name, just ask them what their name is. You might look like an idiot. I look like an idiot all the time because I always ask people what their name is. And they're like, dude, I just told you my name the other day. And I'm like, yeah, but I forgot your name. But yet it just comes down to this concept that you want to see people as though they are very important. And so the more important somebody is, the easier it is to remember their name. You're like, wow, that's an important person. I should know who that is, right? And so in your mind, just like envision that the people that you're working with are significantly important individuals. And the moment that you do that, it's like 10 times easier to remember their names because they are important, right? And you care about them. So with that said, with that intro, let's go over to the computer and let's look at some super cool application of remembering people's names. So a long time ago, you got FDR, and he was trying to remember the names of everybody that he came into contact with. So to illustrate this concept, right, the Chrysler Corporate, they came to FDR and they said, hey, FDR, we're gonna make you this special car, because he couldn't. His legs were like paralyzed, right, from polio, and it was just bad. So he didn't have any legs. And so they made him a special car because his legs were paralyzed. And so one day, they come by to the White House, and FDR's there with his family, and he comes out, and there's this mechanic, right? This mechanic delivers the car with right to the White House. And in front of him is like a letter, and he says that he taught President Roosevelt how to handle the car with all the unusual gadgets, and he taught him a lot about the fine art of handling people. So it's not just like him giving him a car, but at the same time, he's learning from FDR, he's learning from his social skills, and he's learning from just how he acts, just by being around him. He's learning how to better connect with individuals, which is super awesome, right? So he gets to the White House, and the president was so pleased, so pleasant, and so cheerful. Called them by name, and he made him feel very comfortable, right? Because remember, if you call people by their names, it makes them happy to be with you, makes them comfortable, makes them at ease. So that's exactly what he does, and particularly impresses him with the fact that he was vitally interested in everything he had to show and tell him. And the car was designed so that it could be operated entirely by hand. And so as a crowd kind of comes around this huge car, like FDR is super interested, super excited, and always listening to what this delivery guy is saying. The mechanic is saying, and he says, I think it is marvelous. All you have to do is touch a button and it moves away and you can drive it without effort. I think it is grand. I don't know what makes it so. I'd love to have the time to tear it down and see how it works. He gives abundant praise, and he focuses on all the good things and all the amazing features of this car and why it's the coolest thing ever. And he keeps telling this guy over and over how amazing it is. And then when his friends and his associates came to admire the machine, he said right in front of the delivery mechanic, yo, look at how awesome this car is. Look at all the time and effort that got put into developing this car. And he very specifically praises all the hard work that these guys have been doing. And then he admires the radiator. He admires the special rear view mirror. He admires the special clock, special spotlight, the upholstery, the sitting position, the special suitcases in the trunk with his monogram on each suitcase. Like, these are all painstaking details that this mechanic and his team had gone through so deeply, very intensely, because they know that this is a really important delivery. And he took notice, the president took notice of every single detail with which he knew they give considerate thought. He made it a point of bringing these various pieces of equipment to the attention of Mrs. Roosevelt, Ms. Perkins, Secretary of Labor, his secretary, and he even brought the White House porter in and said you had to take a good care of these special suitcases. He literally focused on this one key concept of boosting up this guy's work and in front of everybody showing how he was the coolest ever and how his work was awesome and he was amazing, and he gave out tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of praise. And after he goes on a quick driving lesson and finish everything, the president turns to the guy and he says, well, Mr. Chamberlain, I have been keeping the Federal Reserve Board waiting for 30 minutes. I guess I better go. And as he takes the mechanic back to him into the White House, he starts to walk away. But when they first got here, this mechanic guy, he introduced Roosevelt to his buddy, just once. He never talked to the president, and Roosevelt, he only heard his name once. He was a little bit of a shy guy. He was just helping with the delivery. And as they're leaving, he was always in the background. But before he left, the president, Roosevelt, he looked for the mechanic, found him, shook his hand, called him by his name that he had heard one time, and thanked him for coming to Washington. And then he said there was nothing else about his thing. He was so genuine, so real, and so connected with both of these guys, and specifically this one guy who he literally met once, heard the name of once. He stuck that in his head and he said this person's name is important, and he gave genuine praise, real interest into the work that these guys had done, and more importantly, into their individual personalities. It connected with them as people. And then a couple of days later, after these guys return to New York, they get a personalized autograph photograph of Roosevelt and a note saying thanks again and expressing his appreciation for their assistance. He found the time to do everything he could to make these guys happy. And so often people focus on how much time it's going to take to do something, or how difficult it is, or all this bogus on what they have to get done to make it happen. When in reality, all you have to do is do what FDR did and freaking find time, because literally you can generate it at any moment that you want, and you can accomplish anything you want in any time span possible, and it's all up to you to freaking make it happen and find the time to actually go out there and absolutely crush it, which is ridiculously cool and super powerful. So that's really the basics of what goes on here, and how Roosevelt succeeds, and it's so powerful. It all comes from his ability to have genuine praise and find the time to go out there and make it happen, and send people a personalized note. You send somebody a note, dude, they are going to love you. You're gonna be amazing, right? Why is that? It's because they care, because you should care, because everyone comes together to have the biggest impact as a group, which is just ridiculously powerful and so with that said, FDR knew the simplest, most obvious, most important way to gain goodwill was simply by remembering names and making people feel important, and yet so few people do it. Half the time we're introduced to a stranger, we chat for a few minutes, and we can't even remember their name by the time we say goodbye. One of the first lessons for all politicians is to recall a voter's name is statesmanship, and to forget it is oblivion, because the ability to remember names is almost as important in business and social contacts as it is in politics. I'll give you guys this really great example. I went to this big scholarship event, and it was for this full ride to Duke and Chapel Hill, and it was super big deal. And there's probably a couple thousand people that apply, and of the couple thousand people that apply, they take 100 people, and they have 100 people come to finalist weekend. And from the 100 people at the finalist weekend, they pick 10 people to come and get a full ride to Duke and Chapel Hill. And when they're here, there's this one main guy named Adam, and he had a really good quote in the quote book, which is sick. And you guys, oh my god, such a cool guy. And he would run all of the selection process, right? So we would have 6 judges that worked under him, and then there would be him, right? And so we would go out to dinner, some fun, and over the course of the day, it was a couple of events, and you would have long panel interviews, and there were also MMIs, which are these little interviews in a very condensed period of time about your personality and your skills and stuff like that. And it was just trying to identify leadership, right? Super cool event. And so everyone here wants to get this scholarship thing, right? I get here on the first day, and there was an interview before this to get here, and so I passed that and I get here, and on the first day I walk in, and meeting everybody, having an amazing time, super cool. Like, these are like the best of the best kids like in the country, which is like awesome. Some of them aren't even from the country, which is just insane. Tons and tons of amazing people. You know, I walk up to this guy, Adam, and I just like totally blanked, man. I totally forgot his name. Probably like the most important person there, but I just could not remember his name. So I walk up to him, and you know, I ask his buddy, hey, what's that guy's name? And then he overhears me, and he's like, dude, are you serious? You forgot my name? And I'm like, yeah, what's your name? And he's like, just go, you know, play with these guys or do whatever, and just go with other people. And you know, he boots me away. And you know, I'm not 100% sure, right? Because there's a lot of people here, a lot of competition. But like from that point forward, dude, it was like he was out. It was just, it just crushed this relationship. It crushed this connection between, you know, him and I. And it was terrible, right? Because we tried so hard to succeed and to go out there and crush it. But went through the process, went through all the stuff, and I don't know, man, just didn't get the under the award, right? I think a big part of it was because I literally forgot this guy's name, and it's like disrespectful, right, to forget people's names, and it just sucks. If your memory blanks, it flashes away, it can really hurt you and cost you in the long term. And like, if I could just remember that guy's name, I mean, I might be in like a whole different place than where I am right now. I don't know. It's honestly not really a great engineering school, so I guess it worked out for the better, but I mean, time will tell. We'll see. Tech's really cool because they have like so many startup things. Like, oh, it's so fun. But it's just it's an opportunity that slipped away because I just couldn't remember this guy's name. So like, focus on names and really care about them, because like, if you remember someone's name, that is the gateway into their personality. That's the gateway into their life. And that's the gateway to really forming that intimate connection with them, which is super powerful. It's just huge. Napoleon III, Emperor of France, and his nephew of the great Napoleon, he boasted that in spite of all his royal duties, he could remember the name of every single person that he met, which kept him in power, kept him ruling, right? He was huge, and his technique was super simple. If he didn't hear the name distinctly, he said, I'm sorry, I didn't get the name clearly. He would ask them a question. He would raise his hand and say, I need help. What is your name? And then if it was an unusual name, he'd say, how do you spell your name? And literally, I'll do this when I meet new people now, is like, they'll tell me their name, and I will write down their name, like right in front of them, and I'll be like, is this your name? And they'll be like, yeah, that's my name. And like, it looks stupid, right? But it actually makes them feel really important, because remember, people like their names more than anything else. And so if you're writing down people's names right in front of them, it's gonna make them feel important, make them feel significant, and make them feel like you care about them, which is like ridiculously cool, right? Ask how things are spelled. See, during this conversation, he took the trouble to repeat the name several times, over and over. Always interweave this name in the conversation and use it as a tool, so that, like, you know, you're just talking to them, but you interject their name, because people like to hear their name. And the more you say to them, first of all, the happier they're gonna be. But secondly, you're gonna be able to remember it better, because you're saying it over and over again, repeating it, so they can memorize it. And that was like all I did, was just use the name in a conversation and repeat it back to them over and over again, and try to associate in his mind the person's features, expressions, and general appearance with their names. And if the person was someone important, Napoleon went to even further pains, and as soon as His Royal Highness was alone, he wrote the name down on a piece of paper, looked at it, concentrated on it, fixed it securely in his mind, and then tore up the paper. And in this way, he gained an eye impression of the name as well as an ear impression. He ripped it up so that he will be forced to remember it. It all takes time, but good manners are made of petty sacrifices. And if you can just remember people's names, it would change everything, because the importance of remembering and using names is not just the prerogative of kings or corporate executives, because it works for all of us. Ken was one of Carnegie's students at GM, and he usually had lunch in the company cafeteria. You notice that a woman who was working behind the counter always had a scowl on her face, and she had been making sandwiches for about 2 hours. And to her, like, you know, he walks up on this huge sandwich line, and this lady, I mean, she's just making sandwiches. And this guy, he's just another guy, and he wants to stand out, he wants to feel special. You know, as he goes through this line, on one day, she'd been making sandwiches for a while, and he told her what she wanted, and she weighed out the ham on a scale, and gave him a little tiny leaf of lettuce and a few potato chips, and just handed it to him. But the next day, and this is huge, right? And I've applied this so often in my life, and it changes everything, and it allows you to really get whatever you want. especially like, you know, for me, like track, cross country, like I got a pretty high metabolism, so I need a lot of food. And this one concept is huge, right? Next day he comes in, he goes to the same line, same woman, same scowl. The only difference is that he sees her name tag. And he says, "Hello, Eunice," and he told her what she wanted. And just by saying her name, she forgets the scale, she forgets her limits. She piles on the ham, gives him 3 leaves of lettuce and a heaping serving of potato chips till they fell off the plate, because names are magic. And the magic contained in a name will allow you to realize that this single item is wholly and completely owned by the person with whom you're dealing and nobody else. Because to them, it makes them feel so special and so unique. And the name sets the individual apart and makes them a leader among others. And so powerful, so huge. The information that we're imparting or that we request, we make, or making, it takes on a special importance when we approach the situation with the name of the individual. Just by literally including somebody's name in a request, you're gonna increase your response, you're gonna increase the chance that they will actually do whatever you want. From the waitress to the senior executive, the name will work like magic. It's so huge. Remember, that person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So if you can use it in literally any way possible, it will absolutely shift, you know, almost instantly, the entire response rate, every single shift that you get, and all the impact that you get from connecting and speaking with others will just explode once you can integrate another person's name into whatever it is you're doing. It changes absolutely everything, and it can allow you to get better results, better treatment, better relationships, anything you desire. You can get by calling people by their names. It's so huge and just so powerful. So please guys, go out there and apply this, because it will change your life. It'll change your relationships, it'll change your friendships. It's amazing, and it's just awesome. So thank you guys so much for watching this module. Hope you got a ton of value from it. Go out there, crush it, and I will see you in the next module. Thank you. Bye.